Pastor Josue is someone I've gotten to know over the past few years, and I got to tell you, he's amazing. And in this conversation, we're going to talk through his journey as a bilingual pastor here in Phoenix. He's been a part of his congregation for many, many years. In fact, they just celebrated their 14th anniversary, and he's just got tons of amazing insights. So if you're someone who's ever thought about hosting a bilingual service or opening a bilingual campus or any of those types of things, this is going to be a great episode to listen to, as Josue has some hard-earned wisdom, some great stories, and just some incredible insight as he continues to lead his church. So listen in. We're happy to have you. Pastor Josue, it's good to have you on the podcast today. It's a pleasure. As I've gotten to know you over the past few years, I just see someone who loves being a pastor, has a joy in ministry, and I so appreciate that about you. And I'm really grateful that you could be here with us today as we talk about kind of I don't even know if I'd say it's a big issue, but I feel like it's something that churches try a lot and that more churches are trying, but that is the concept and idea of a bilingual service, which you've been doing now for 14 years. Is that right? Or is it longer?
Yeah, that's right. 14 years.
14 years. So bilingual service.
I would say bilingual, 14 years. Yes.
Amazing. So yeah, bilingual services. And so I'm just super hopeful that as we talk, you can give us all the wisdom and knowledge that you have on this topic, which is probably so much. But before we get into the weeds on that, I would love if you would share just some more about your story, even what first drew you to ministry.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me, Matt. It's a pleasure to be with you. I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor. And my decision was to not be a pastor. That was my main point in life. Like, I have a degree in business administration, work in Mexico for 6 years for the government over there. Until somebody appears in my life who changed my view and invited me to plant a church in Chandler. So we pray about it, and we moved to America in December of 2004. My wife and my 2-year-old boy, and we start helping to plant a church 100% in Spanish in Chandler, Arizona. And we have helped that congregation for 5 years, leading worship and doing youth ministry. That was my main point. And I was doing some mission trip here and there with another church there too. So that's how we came to America. That's how I grew up. I gave my life to the Lord when I was 15 years old. And that's when I had the understanding of the gospel, really. So I have a really good heart, and I really have a love for the youth crowd a lot and the next generation. So I came to America and worked with doing worship, something that I love a lot to do, and the youth ministry. So we did it for 4 years until 2010 is when we moved to Mesa and start thinking to plant a church that we don't know like what kind of church it was, but we saw a big need of English and Spanish church. So what we did in the beginning was to have Bible studies in 2 different languages. And then we met on Sunday to have a worship time together. Bilingual worship is easy and it's fun too. Everyone wants to try to sing in a different language. But then we divided the groups to teach in English and in Spanish. And what we saw is like we're kind of dividing the families, because we have different generations in America where people with different understanding of English too. Like myself as a first generation who grew up in Mexico, came here as an older guy. Then my kids who are second generation, one of them born here, and both of my kids are bilingual. They understand very well the language. So finally, we decide to do a bilingual service. And we're like, we don't know what to do. It was hard to find information outside of us, like who is doing this and how they're doing it. So we tried the first time, and the people in the church kind of love it. We felt like for the first time, we felt like this is family. And so we saw the first generation parents loving the way they can be sitting in the same place and somebody's teaching the Bible and they're learning it together. And it's when I see that God open my eyes, like this is a big beauty and this is a big need, and especially in our communities with immigrants. So, and that's when we decided, okay, from now and beyond, we're going to be a bilingual church. And that's how we decided to be bilingual. And that's how I get in the world of bilingual church too, and multicultural overall too. So,
Yeah. That's amazing. So in your story, so if I'm picking up what you're saying right, and this is so insightful, I think. But what you're saying is the language, even the understanding, maybe deteriorates from like a first generation to a second generation to a third generation. And so, are you saying even that in a congregation or in a family that there begins to be a disconnect, like the further you get away from the native language?
yes, and it's sad, and it's part of the culture that we live so fast too. Part of the parents and my community having two jobs and not having enough time to spend with their kids to practice their English or practice the Spanish for the kids. So the kids, as soon as they start going to school, they're gonna pick the language right away. And for that point and beyond, it's more easy for them to keep speaking in English. So I can see in my church people where their parents speak to Spanish to the kids, and the kids answers to them in English. So we have this weird mixed communication, and it's not clear. It's hard to speak to my kids in one language. Now I try to mix the two languages. So, and it's sad too, because you miss a lot of opportunities to teach your kids well. So, but it's a big need. Communication is a big problem in our community because of that.
Yep. Man, I bet you could tell stories about
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
But so in another part of your story that was interesting to me is, so you were in Mexico and you met someone who lived in Chandler area or in Phoenix, basically.
Yeah.
And then that person, how did that work for you? You got to know them and they said, hey, you seem to be a pastor. Why don't you come up to my church? Or like, how did that sense of calling, how did that work out for you?
So I lost my dad in 1999, and that summer, and in November I met this guy who was sent from a church in Gilbert to raise and help to raise leaders in my church. So he helped me in the process of losing my dad, reconnecting with God, and we spent a couple years in a good relationship and discipleship relationship with him. When I got married, the next day he got a new job in Gilbert as a missions pastor. And then he started thinking like, we need to start a Spanish church here. And I know a person. So he started inviting me. And that was like 2 years of period of like back and forward. Finally, we got a visa, and then we came to America through a religious visa to help. My whole point was helping, not to be a pastor. That was my story. Like, no, I don't want to be a pastor. I want to be a worship guy who does worship, youth ministry. But God changed my heart through the years, more mature too. Yeah, this guy helped me to come here to America, and me and him, another guy, we plan a church in Chandler. That church is still going there, but it's 100% in Spanish. But yeah, so, but I saw the need. Like, once the kids are 15 years old, they don't want to come to our church because it's only in Spanish, because they don't understand, and they like the cultural, but they don't understand the language, and they don't want to try it. So it's frustrating for them to go into these kind of churches. So that was when we moved to Mesa, is when we're thinking like, well, maybe bilingual, that helped that generation to come to church.
So that goes back to, you're hitting again on this difficulty with the language and the frustration.
Yes.
So Huh. That's interesting. Can you, as we think about the bilingual service, would you mind sharing, even, and I've gotten to see you speak a few times now, so I kind of get it, but for someone who doesn't know, what would life in a bilingual church look like or feel like? So, like on a typical Sunday, what does it look like? If someone was just walking in, what would they experience?
Our our idea, our plan, our goal is anybody who lives in our community can come to our building and to our services and understand. In our community, pretty much, we speak English and Spanish. We don't have any other language around us close to here. So anybody who lives close in our community can come to our services and understand at least 80% because we're translating and you lose something. We know that. So typically we have two services, and both of them, they're bilingual. They always ask me,
Yeah, I was going
maybe
to say they're the same, right?
they're the same.
They're the same. Yeah.
And there's a reason why. In one part of our life, we try one English and then one bilingual. And what we did is we divide the church, like because it's not only bilingual, but it's multicultural too. So we have different cultures in our church, and we divide it, and we say, no, 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 it's not what we want to. So to do that, we need to keep both services bilingual. So always is somebody with me and the other side. Uh, if I speaking in Spanish, he's saying in English. And normally every other week we have somebody preaching to Spanish to English. The next week is going to be English to Spanish. So people feel like, okay, I'm connected and I'm connecting with that leader too. And one Sunday I'm going to get the 100%. The next Sunday I'm going to have the 80%, but I love my family that is different in the church. So that's what we do every other week. And everything on the services bilingual, except the classes for the kids and the youth ministry, everything is in English for them. So if we have a kid who only speaks Spanish, we help that kid. We put somebody that help that kid. But everything we try to do bilingual on Sundays. So from the songs to communion to the sermon to the benediction, everything you're going to understand what we're saying.
And you said, so the kids, is that because of what you brought up earlier, where the kids, the generations get less and less in touch with their language?
Yeah, that's right.
So it just doesn't make as much sense to try to do a bilingual?
Yeah. Like we do all the kids ministry, youth ministry, English, and we do like our community groups, small groups, we do in different languages, English or Spanish, because people want to talk there and can be so hard if everybody wants to like translate everything. So we decided to do it in that way, English and Spanish, and it's very helpful. So
now you brought up something that I 100% agree with, but the worship is so fun to go, to sing through what would you call it? A stanza or a verse and then a chorus. Yeah. So you're doing that in English, verse, chorus, and then verse, chorus, Spanish, and you kind of flip back and forth.
Yes.
And that's been you've been doing that a long time, right? And that's how you guys do it on Sunday.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. Normally we have like, if we're singing in Spanish, the big lyrics are in Spanish, but you can read in English in the bottom, like, what are you saying? So you understand what you're singing.
Mm-hmm.
So
you display both
languages. Okay. Yeah. And that's helpful. So because pretty much you're singing half of the song in your language, but you're understanding 100% or 80% of the song and in your home language. So, and it's fun. And I see people trying.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, I got committed to see more hymns in my church for the last year. It's really hard. All English is really hard to sing. So when I'm leading worship, if that word is really hard, I just go back to the microphone, make the congregation sing that part, and then I come back to the microphone and sing the rest because really, some words are really hard to say.
Yeah.
So, Yeah.
You said Old English.
Yeah. All English is,
Yes.
yeah, no, not fun to sing or try to understand, but it's a big beauty in the hymn, so that I want to bring it to the church. So
Do you see, so your experience of seeing, when you look out and you see different families that you know, do you see them like really enjoying getting to sing together? I mean, that's got to be an amazing sight.
for an immigrant who don't speak the main language here, being with their kids and learning together or singing together is heaven. You know, for them right there, right here is heaven. Is finally I feel like I'm part of this. I'm part of the family, and I feel more connected with God when my family understand too. So, and it's a sensation that I really experienced being an immigrant, and going to Mexico and taking my kids to my church over there, and they're bilingual, but understanding everything is just relaxing. But living here is different for us. But so yeah, definitely beautiful sensation and beautiful to see those around our church.
This is a random question, but is there a difference like a lot of, when you preach, a lot of pastors would say, yeah, preaching takes a lot out of me. Like you give, a lot of pastors take a Sunday afternoon nap, let's say. Do you find that if you, when you host a bilingual service, is that even more tiring than if you were just to do it only in Spanish?
Yes, and you need to educate yourself to concentrate in one language, because if I'm waiting for the other guy who's interpreting for me to say it, can be very tired. You're making your brain work so much hard. So what I normally do, I say something and then I go to my notes and keep going to the flow and trusting to the Lord that the other guy is going to preach well to the other people too. So I feel like trusting in the Lord helped me to not have it a big Sunday burnout. So yeah, yeah. Even for the people who come here, they're bilingual. You need to train your brain to like, hey, shut it down one of those languages and pick one and keep focusing that one, so you can get it good.
That's a really good tip for someone listening, to really try to minimize the fatigue. Because even if you do two services and you were to try to pay attention, so two services times two languages, that's like four services.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
that would be tiring.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't say what I'm saying because they don't have the whole. They have all my notes. So for one of my interpreters, I send my notes by Thursday, so they can practice. They can translate if they want to. But sometimes they say something that I'm not saying, and I correct that one. And sometimes they say it in a better way than I'm saying it, and I'm looking like, oh, I say that. Oh, sounds good. So it's part of the life too. And this is the other thing. Because of that, we're gonna make some mistakes in the stage. And from some churches, they want to have everything perfect. I know we're doing for the Lord and we're trying, but humans. So part of that, to understanding that we're gonna have mistakes, it's okay for our church, and it's very relaxed in that regard. So when we make a correction, people laugh, but it's a good laugh. People, okay, yeah, okay, we keep going. So, so in that, we're very friendly environment on Sundays to have those mistakes. They're gonna happen. So
I love what you just said because that's been my experience. Is the bilingual multicultural environment is just a very welcoming one. And it's a little more lighthearted, I guess I would say it that way. It's a little more, you just said it really well, but if you're ever in a service and you can feel when that service is being run, like everything has to be perfect and right on the nose. Whereas these bilingual services or situations where there's a translator, they do end up being more lighthearted and somewhat, I would even say somewhat more enjoyable because maybe it's more relatable. I mean,
yes,
that's your experience.
it's a human. more human service. We're not like machines to they do it perfect. No, we're humans, and I feel like that make a very friendly environment for the people to. But at the same times, we're serious about the gospel, and the gospel is the most important thing. So, so I can explain our services is like different feelings during the service, like joy, but also like conviction. Uh, so it's part of our culture.
Mm-hmm. And how do you, speaking of cultures, so you obviously have different languages, but it's multicultural. What is your thought process on a Sunday, thinking through the different cultures in the room? And it just, even as I'm talking to you, I'm realizing there's so much to think about. And
Yeah,
that's not to say that there's not a lot to think about in every service, but in a
yeah.
bilingual service. So how do you handle some of that?
Especially when I'm doing the applications, I need to think like double how this gonna hit for somebody who grew up here, who understand the culture, or somebody who just came here, or somebody who has 20 years here. So I need to make sure that everybody understand those applications. So for me, it's really good when I send my notes and I got an email like, "Hey, I don't understand this very well. What are you talking about?" Like when I make a joke that is very funny in Spanish, but not make any sense in English, those kind of situations that you need to be aware of those. You need to prepare for who you're talking to. So, uh, yeah, maybe think double, but it's you got practice with the years, and even in our church, we have maybe like 12 different countries from Latin America, and they're very different from each other. So not everybody's Mexican, and even they don't like what they call Mexicans too. So, uh, so I need to make sure that I'm hitting all these different countries. They're all we're united in something. So I always looking for those points where we're doing the same here. So
Maybe that's where the emphasis on just the gospel is so powerful,
yes,
because it's like you could spend so much time trying to figure out, like you just said, like even a simple joke. And you're thinking to yourself, well, man, the folks from Mexico are going to get this, but the folks from, Argentina, they're going to be mad at me, or
yeah,
the, people from Chandler or Gilbert, they're not going to get this at all.
yeah, yeah.
So, but if you, for all that, the gospel translates every time.
Exactly. This is the thing, and the main point for everybody, and the same thing that unites us all is we're sinners, and the gospel is our solution, and Jesus is our solution. So we want to bring Jesus always in the middle. And I always tell people on Sundays, like, we're here because of Jesus. And we have this beautiful opportunity to meet other people and be around to these different cultures and everything. But it's because of Jesus. So that's the beauty and the most important thing that we have in our church.
Yes. And along those lines, what you just said, is there anything that sticks out in your mind as one of the most beautiful and amazing aspects of running a bilingual service? We talked about worship a little bit, but is there something else?
Yes. Um, if you're a part of our church, you need to understand that your priorities, they're not going to be always in the top. So you need to make sure that you love your neighbor well. And I love when people got that. And I love when, like I would say, if we have two in a row, Sundays in Spanish, they're not complaining. But if we have two in English, they're not complaining. But because we have love to each other. So we see each other as humans, not just different cultures or different languages, but humans. So love is very important in our church. Uh, that that make us to feel part of God's kingdom and the beauty of God's kingdom. So yeah, I would say because the sad part in our churches in America is everybody's looking about what worship I want to, or what speaker I want to, or what ministry for my kids I want to. They're not wrong things, but those are our preference always. They're not saying I'm going to this church because this is my community, and my community looks like this. So yeah, it's something that I really love in our church.
Yeah. And so you have a lot of people who are willing to be flexible and to buy into, a neighborly expression of the faith,
Exactly.
which is beautiful. So like to the point of what we're saying, so then the gospel has to remain primary.
Has to be.
Well, that kind of brings us around to the challenges, which could be many, but with any ministry, man, look, there's challenges, and I know you talk to a lot of pastors. We do too. So there's always going to be difficult things that we could talk about. So with that in mind, what's specifically difficult or have you seen with the bilingual congregation and managing a bilingual, group, services, etc.?
Definitely one of our biggest challenges is to try to set aside our privilege. Even we talk, that's one of our main things, but it was one of the biggest challenge too. When somebody comes new here and go through that process to set aside of the privilege that these people has. Can be a leader, can be a new believer. We always have those privileges that we want to keep in front of us. But it's a good challenge. The other challenge is like a lot of immigrants here, they have different jobs. And sometimes they work on Sundays. And as part of their life is what they do, and they don't have regular jobs sometimes. So we have like 2 Sundays where the church is full, and then the other 2 one is kind of empty, but that people are still part of our church. So that's the life of the community, the immigrant community who comes to our church is like that. So in that, it's really hard to keep the momentum going always. So yeah, and for sure, I can talk about politic and different point of view. That always a challenge. Anything that's a scare in the news for some of our people too. It's a legit scare and fear. So we pray for them, and so that's a challenge too. Where you are in a community like us, financial is a challenge too. Um, it's not it's not it's a challenge. Let's put it that way. But God always provide for us. So
Yeah, those are good. Those are good things to bring up. I thought especially this idea of privilege, having to work through that. And there's probably been, but different misunderstandings or specific points of frustration that have helped shaped how you do things now. Was there anything early on that you learned that you thought, oh, okay, I gotta be careful about that, or I gotta pay attention to that?
Yes, I felt like, so it's 2 things to be bilingual, because you could be a bilingual church, but one culture. And even you can be a bilingual Mexican church, and there is some here, but we are multicultural. So that adds a little bit more challenge too. So it's not about only one culture, but different cultures. And you add the bilingual thing. So that's, I would say, the first 5 years, we're trying to figure it out, and we try to focus in the 2 main cultures here in our community, but then God bring different people from different countries, and now they're part of our church. So that was one of our learning curves too, to how we treat people, how we talk in front of people. because not everybody celebrates Cinco de Mayo. So we need to add more stuff to that, So not even Mexicans celebrate Cinco de Mayo, but we can do another podcast for that one.
Right.
But there's different cultures here. So we need to embrace those cultures too and bring them to the table and make them feel like you're part of this and you are important here too. So I would say the first 5 years took us a lot to figure it out, that kind of stuff. So
That is such a good point. I have a friend of mine who was at a bilingual church, and their lead pastor was from Brazil. And so, in a similar sense, you can't just lump, if we're just talking specifically about speaking Spanish, you can't just lump everybody into one group and go, oh, well, they all speak Spanish.
yeah,
Because to your point, that's so many different cultures, and there's so much nuance in the language and the wording and the little. You brought up what I thought was a great point, but joking, right?
Yeah.
Humor.
Yeah.
Humor is super nuanced. And so, to your point, so it's a specific joke that you may be telling in Spanish. It may, the Mexican community may go, oh yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But then the Brazilian community goes, that doesn't even make any sense to us.
Yeah.
And that line has got to be, line has got to be so, like, you got to be so careful about that.
Yeah. So kind of aware what you're saying and also reading faces in front of you, like, oh, I'm not going to say that so anymore. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to stick to, so this gets to something that I love about the bilingual service is you have to really stick to, I already said this, you have to stick to the gospel, but then you have to stick to presenting the information in just a very straightforward way, which I think is a good argument for, like, when you get to preach very straightforwardly, it is very accessible to everybody. And I think that that's a strength, not a weakness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. We can, for somebody who's going to a different church and can be a lot of lecture in that church, coming to here, you're going to feel like, oh, that's so basic. Well, the gospel is very basic,
Yes.
So we try to always communicate as much clear as we can be while we say anything. So that the main point is still the gospel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm agreeing with you. It actually has been a funny journey as my kids have gotten older, and I've met your kids. I know, you have kids as well. But as my kids have gotten older, getting to hear them talk about the church service, or like getting to listen to different people and then asking them after the fact, oh, what did you think, or what did you like about it? And it's so interesting because they really like and appreciate a more straightforward presentation. And they say, and it comes over and over again. They don't want a bunch of different, they don't want a bunch of different illustrations. They don't want a bunch of different random rabbit trails and roads that we go down. It's just like, they just say, oh yeah, that was a really good sermon. And you go, oh, well, that's interesting. What made it really good? They say, well, I understood what they were saying.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And that, speaking of the bilingual services, again, it has to be a very straightforward presentation, because you just can't take a bunch of random tangents. You have to stay pretty focused.
Especially if you like, I do script my whole sermon. Because I try to be under 40 minutes. So it's like 24 minutes in one language and the rest is interpretation. So it's not double, but it's close to double. So, but if I start saying something that is not in my script, I can last easy 5 minutes there. And now you make your sermon longer and longer. And because it's bilingual, it can be tired for the people. And you see, they're going to disconnect right away. So we need to be on point and like clear where we're going. So it's not like tired. And so.
I think that's a good word for anybody listening. I mean, that's just good preaching encouragements. So if we let's move to some of that encouragement for someone listening who may be thinking about starting a bilingual service or maybe is toying with the idea. So, as someone who's done it for quite some time and experienced, I'm sure, seasons of joy and then seasons of heartache in it, what advice would you give someone who's considering starting a bilingual ministry?
First, like, know well your community. Like, for some churches, it does not make any sense to have a bilingual services where there's no people around there. So make sure that your community is multicultural and bilingual so you can start a service or church like that. Be willing to walk the extra mile too. These ministries take so much time. They're not growing like quickly and easy. Takes so much time. So be willing to walk the extra mile. Be open to have new flavors in your plate, new expression of music, and be willing to try different stuff that you're gonna get a surprise. You're gonna like it maybe. So, but you need to be willing to do that kind of stuff, and also make sure that always Jesus is in the middle. Because if not, the economics and politics and all that kind of stuff gonna get in the way and gonna move your focus where you really want to do. That is preaching the gospel. So if Jesus is in the center, that ministry is gonna grow and yeah.
Yeah. Do you would it be your opinion that people don't understand how much time it takes or how difficult it is to grow a bilingual community?
Yes. Especially because in America we love numbers and we love charts and we love like goals. And none of those are wrong. But sometimes they don't apply to a culture. We as a Latino culture, we're not time oriented. But we always start on time. Always we start on time and we try to end on time too because we want to respect the culture that is in America. But if we start talking, you and me, I can talk for a long time. So make sure the podcast is not going to be long because I can talk. But it's part of my culture. And if I go longer if you go longer, I don't feel like you're not respecting my time. So make sure that you understand those kind of stuff that for some people can be very frustrating. So we don't measure how we do here. How you measure two people, there are different cultures and different languages, worship Jesus in the same building on Sunday. There's no measure for that. We can say two. Okay, if you want a number, we have two. Are you happy with that? But the love and the gospel and the encouragement for each other, how you measure that? So there's no measure for that.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. And what do you think, would that be your answer? Like, what could the broader church learn from the way the bilingual community worships together and the way the bilingual community has to work together?
Oh, it's a good question. I feel like it's not for everybody. But I feel like everybody can get involved in different ways. So if there's a bilingual church close to you, to your church, make sure you guys are participating in some ways to that church and different ways to support, prayer, friendship with them, welcoming to the neighborhood. Yeah, it's not for everybody, but make sure that you participate in some ways. Yeah, and that's unique to America, where God brings all these nations here. The bilingual and multicultural is very unique to this country. So we don't do bilingual services in my city, maybe one or two, because there is some Anglo folks living there that they need that. But here is different. everywhere you're gonna find somebody who spoke a different language or has a different culture than you.
Yeah. Have you ever counseled someone? Has someone ever come to you and they've wanted to start this type of community? Have you ever counseled someone and told them don't do that?
No, not at that point. I had somebody who came to me and wants to serve in kids ministry, but that person told me like, and everybody, this person told me that if everybody is legal here, she can do it. If somebody has a different status, it's not for her. Like, and I told like, we don't value or have those measures in the church. Everybody's a sinner, like you and me. So for sure, this ministry is not for you. So,
Yeah.
But not a pastor or ministry. I helped to plant a church in San Antonio. A group of people from there came to our church and learned what we're doing it and the whole process on Sundays and everything. Now they're running a bilingual church over there. So
That's amazing. Okay, I got another random question for you. So along with encouragement, vision, etc., but have you found a specific way? How am I going to ask you this? But is there a specific way to meet with people of multiple different cultures and different cultures, ethnicities, languages, all these different things? Is it inviting them out to lunch? Is it having a potluck? Is it a phone call?
mm-hmm.
Like, what do you think is like the most straightforward way to spend time and get to know the different folks in a community like this?
Yeah, let's say for somebody who's in his works environment and somebody's from a different country, the best way to connect with that people, for me, is sharing a meal. And we're always very proud of our meals and our food, and we try to explain the flavors and everything. That's part of who we are. So that's an easy way to connect with people. But needs to feel like it's a genuine thing that you're doing it because you care for the soul of the people, not because I need to do it because you're here. So, and even we don't spoke the same language, we can feel some stuff that we understand very well. Rejection is one of them. Like right away, I see when I try to speak to somebody in Home Depot and they don't want to talk to me because they know I have a broken English. So I feel it right away. Like, okay, he don't want to help me. So I move on. So make sure that your expressions and you put in attention and make that person like has value because it's God's creation in the end, no matter what.
Yep.
But so when you see the beauty in that person and their culture, for sure they want to share with you and they're going to start a conversation with you and they're going to have a relationship with you. So,
yeah. You just said such a powerful thing, which is that there is not there's not a ton of things that transfer over to every culture, but one of them is rejection.
Oh yeah.
And that is something that we can all feel. And so be careful.
I got a 22 years of experience of rejection here.
Yeah.
It's part of our ministry. I understand that. And it's part of I'm a immigrant here. I understand that. But sometimes can be really hard. Sometimes feels like, yeah, you're less. So, yeah.
I thought something you were sharing with me, not on the podcast, but something you were sharing with me, which I thought was really insightful too, is that when you are trying to speak to someone who speaks a different language or not your primary language, that you can end up feeling not as smart, or like you were saying, like if they could only knew how smart I was as a Spanish speaker, because when you're trying to transfer over and speak in a different language, you do have to go slower, or you make mistakes, or just all the things that maybe make you sound not as smart as you really are. And I think that's another piece of, being more understanding and more merciful and graceful for other people. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
in some ways, those people are bilingual. Most of the people speak only one language. So in some way, those people are sometimes more smart than us. I have in my church people, they come from little village in Guatemala. They are trilingual. They know that language. And because they came here, Spanish was easier to learn than English. So it's very super smart people. Come on. Three languages? I barely can speak two. I barely can speak Spanish. So,
that's right.
uh, but yeah, the idea to not be able to communicate fully, uh, is frustrating and sometimes, um, part of to sanctification process of Jesus and us to make us humbled. So I'm waiting in the day where I don't need to be bilingual and just speak to Jesus and everybody in God's kingdom in the same language.
Yes.
So
Amen. Amen. All right. When we, as we come kind of to the end, I want to hear you share about, so when we visited the church, you guys were having a celebration and that was amazing. And it was very welcoming. But then I heard about that you guys do carne asada on Easter. So I just want to hear more about this carne asada Easter celebration that you have.
yes, as I was saying, food is very important. Food provide for us a space where meet people and to know people and to share to each other whatever they want to bring to that table. So you, it's very interesting because we don't want to come with empty hands. So everybody wants to bring and be feel part of this thing. So Easter is a big celebration, and I know the culture here normally the families meet in the afternoon and they have a meal. Uh, but in Latin America, it's different. The church meal is the most important meeting that we have on Sunday. So we took that one and always have a carne asada. It's a good deal, and people love that. We divided to marinate or not marinate the carne asada, but we still love each other, and we share it with flour tortillas and corn tortillas too, and spicy salsas and not spicy salsas. But it's a big celebration, and Jesus is in the middle, and also creates a big opportunity to serve each other. You have people cooking, then you have people cleaning, and then you have people talking to each other and trying to make the new people feel welcome. So just create this big opportunity of serving and loving and celebrating Jesus. So,
Which again is like, if could there be a better Easter message
yeah.
than everything you just said?
Hmm.
So I love it. I think yeah, it was amazing. Do you that's got to be the busiest Sunday that you have.
Yeah, that one and our Sunday celebration too, our anniversary. Those two are the biggest party that we throw up, and people know about those Sundays too. And yeah, it's a big party. But also we do meals every month, in different weights. One is the first Wednesday. We always have a community dinner where we invite our community center, the people that take ESL classes and citizenship classes. They're part of the community. They come to those meals, and we share a meal together, and it's a big potluck meeting. And then we do worship, or we do different teachings. So in Christmas we do a big night of games. So that kind of stuff is the first Wednesday and every month. But also a youth ministry, they do meals once a month on Sundays in a way to raise funds for summer camps. But also we provide a way for them to serve our church, to serve the meal and clean the church. So it's a good interaction between adults and the young crowd. They know the names, and so it's a beautiful interaction that we provide through those meals.
Wow. I hope that everybody listening takes notes on everything you just said. That's a beautiful expression of the community. So my last question for you is what, is there anything that gives you hope for the future of, bilingual, multicultural congregations in our city, but in America? And I want to preface that by saying something you and I talked about recently was that this is something that so many churches talk about doing and try doing, but very few persist in doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what you see is what's encouraging you about kind of this type of community and how you see it growing.
I am very blessed to be a part of a network of churches that believe in our ministry and support our ministry in different ways. And one of them is encouragement to me and praying for me and checking to me and also learning from me too. So I feel part of that table. And as an immigrant leader, I feel like I'm putting in also in this state and this city too with all my brothers and sisters. But so I'm very blessed to be part of that network that encouraged me. So that bring me a lot of hope for the future. A lot of hope there is still leaders and pastors who really care for their community, not in particular for one cultural, but for the whole community. So that's very encouragement. And I see other ministries doing that too. Not only here in Arizona, but I have friends in Chicago and Miami and Houston connecting with other churches and different churches and planting multicultural churches too. So, and I love that. So,
Yep. Well, like you said earlier, we were talking about one day there won't be a language barrier.
yep.
And one day, we'll be eating carne asada every day.
Yes, yes.
That would be my vote.
It is what we do.
I like a good carne asada street tacos. I hope that the what does Revelation say? Streets of gold, and
Oh yeah,
I hope they're filled with street taco vendors and
sounds good.
never-ending buffets.
Yeah,
That would be good. But
man, buffets here are crazy, dude.
yeah,
From Argentina to Guatemala to Colombia to El Salvador, Peruvian. Yeah, they're they're amazing. You need to come one of those.
oh yeah. Well, even like you said, if everybody feels like they want to bring something to the table, and even when we were at your celebration, there was like 6 different guacamole bowls.
Yes, yes,
And you're just thinking like, wow, what?
yeah.
So many different flavors.
And also, it was an American food that we twist a little bit because we did brisket.
Oh, that's true.
Totally American. We did taco brisket. So
Yeah, which was unbelievable.
it's just bringing redemption to the food,
That's right. Amen. You're making me so hungry. But I think even from your perspective, I'm just thinking about how beautiful what you're saying about the table. The table is where we can come together. Food is something that translates any culture, any congregation. And food, the table, the food that it breaks down walls for us.
Yes.
So if I invite you into my home and we share a meal together, it's a vulnerable place.
Yeah.
And it shows another person, another family, like, hey, I want to invite you into my home, into my family, and I want to cook for you.
Yeah. I'm going to share one of my future ideas, and I'm still planning and praying about it. But I want to do a month of Tu Casa es Mi Casa.
Oh, yeah.
And people in the church invite to each other and hear the stories and hear the conversations. And I want to force them to go and get out of the comfort zone. To those who don't speak the same languages, come on, let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm praying about it because it's gonna be a big commitment. It's one thing do it all together, but now let's go to your houses. Mi casa es tu casa. So I want to work in that one a little bit
I
more.
love that idea.
I want to push the people to go far and beyond than just Sundays.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because even once we start sharing a home with someone else, I mean, that really says, I trust you, you're my family. And yeah, that's a beautiful idea. And then we get to have a bunch of good food.
Exactly.
What could be bad about that?
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing. And I do pray that, anybody listening would find encouragement. And you're at Redemption Mesa. So if anybody's listening and they're around in town, they can find you online, right?
Yeah.
Redemption Mesa. I'll share a URL if anybody wants to check that out and see, kind of learn more. And then if someone wants to contact you and maybe pick your brain more about bilingual ministry, are you open to getting an email?
Yes. They can email me, Josue Lopez at redemptionmesa.com, and they can contact me, talk. We can share a coffee, a meal, and we can help. I'm here to help people. So
yep, amen. I'll make sure to share your email too. Well, thank you, my brother. It's always good to see you and always good to learn from you.
Thank you, my friend.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another pastor or ministry leader who you think might benefit from this conversation. And if you're looking for more tools and resources to help you preach and lead with confidence, be sure to check out sermoncentral.com/podcast. Sermon Central is the largest online resource hub for pastors and ministry leaders. From illustrations to outlines to media, you'll find everything you need to preach and lead effectively. So check out sermoncentral.com/podcast, where you'll even find a special podcast listener discount on our membership pricing. Check it out and stay tuned for our next episode.